Hello, and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. I'm your host, Phil Friedrich. And today I'm excited because this is episode 200. So I'm going to highlight a few of the themes that I've noticed throughout the different conversations we've gotten to have with some of the amazing guests. So as we talk about the podcast, we've had NBA, NFL players on, business owners, influencers, people that are on TV, actors, actresses. And it's amazing to see all of the different stories and amazing stories that have come from them. And yet there's quite a few underlying themes that have consistently been a part of our conversation. And so I'm going to go through a few of those today, and hopefully these are helpful for you as the new year's kicking off and you're setting goals for yourself and what you want to accomplish in the year ahead. So one of the first themes that has stood out is we all have a close circle of people, and we appreciate their insight, we appreciate their feedback, and we trust them. However, oftentimes to get to where we want to go, we have to do what we believe to be best, even if the people in our circle aren't agreeing with us. So as we think about that, why would we not always listen to our closest circle? Well, oftentimes the reason we don't listen to our closest circle is because they are telling us things that are good for us to hear, but they're also trying to just keep us safe, right? They have our best interests at heart. They want to make sure that we get to where they think we should go, but they don't oftentimes always know everything there is to know about us, or they don't know our desire or our work ethic or our commitment to what we're setting out to do. And so I believe in getting feedback. That's a very important piece. And getting it from people you trust, people you really respect, that's wise. However, there may become a point in time where you have to listen to yourself, your heart, and know, I understand where they're coming from, and I am listening to that, and I'm going to use that in my decision-making process. But I also have to trust myself more than anyone else to make this decision. So one other reason that we may not always like to do that is the I told you so factor, right? So hey, we had told you don't date this person. We had told you don't start your own business. We had told you don't go do that. And if it doesn't work out the way we were hoping, we have to be okay with admitting, hey, I made the wrong choice, or maybe I just made the choice that I believed to be right then, and it ended up not being the exact right choice. So that's going to be one of the most common themes in these episodes is people at some point made the decision that was maybe not the most popular or wasn't the most supported in their circle. So think about that in your life. What areas are you relying on people and you're listening to them, but maybe it's keeping you safe. It's keeping you contained in this small area when you're really limiting yourself from what's possible in your life. So make sure to be true to yourself. Now, the second part of almost everyone's story is the key factor of resilience. And I could look up and give you a definition of, well, what the heck is resilience, or what does that mean? But what I found is that so many people, they got to a point where they felt like, oh my goodness, it's time to give up, or, oh man, maybe this isn't going to work out the way I had thought. And the difference between their business, where they're at, and maybe other people that had started the same goal was that they kept going and they found a way to figure out how to do what they were doing. And so as you think about that in your life, oftentimes when we start something, we expect it to be easy, or we expect to get traction really quickly. We say, hey, we know it's going to be hard, but I bet within a month I can get to where I want to go. And the reality is sometimes that happens, but there's other things in your life that maybe it's taken even longer than that. And you're like, goodness, this is delayed gratification at its finest because it happens so much further in the future. Or I ended up getting to where I thought I was, but it happened in a different way. And so maybe your original game plan, your original strategy wasn't exactly what you needed to be doing, but with your plan and the knowledge you had to start, that was the best idea you could come up with. And as you got more integrated in your business, or as you got more integrated in your relationships, you start realizing, hey, this can still work, but the way I'm going to have success is going to be in a radically different way than the original plan that I had for how I was going to get there. So when you think about resilience, oftentimes we have these events in life that happen to us or for us, however you want to express that. And the beauty of it is we can use those as learning opportunities, and we can use those as catalysts to get to the next level. But oftentimes when things are tough and they're the most difficult, we start hearing those voices in the back of our head that we just talked about, right? Those people in our lives that said, oh, you shouldn't do this, or I don't know that that's right. And we start believing and we say, you know what, maybe you are right. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. And we quit before we ever get to see the fruits of what's happening. So as I reflect on that for you guys and with you guys, one of the things that stands out to me is we've had people, Brad Johnson, he was an NFL quarterback, NFL Super Bowl winning quarterback. And in his entire college career, he only ever started 6 games, but he had this resiliency factor. And he said, you know what, I just loved the game and I kept playing it and I got the opportunity, I got drafted. But then I had this crazy way of how I even, started for the Buccaneers in their Super Bowl winning season. And I think oftentimes there would have been a lot of people that said, Brad, hey, great, you got to play college football, but now maybe just go be a coach. It's not meant for you to pursue the NFL. But he just believed in himself, and he believed in the skills and the characteristics and traits that he had, that he was going to put in the work to get to where he wanted to go. And that's something that only we know about ourselves, right? Am I willing to do the work that it's going to take to get the results that I want? And when you're looking at that from a personal standpoint, that's where you need to be true to yourself. When I was getting started in the financial planning world, I was 19 years old, and there was every reason of why I wouldn't have success. But the thing that people didn't know was that I was super motivated to have success and to get some early, traction with my business. So I was willing to work a lot harder than I think anyone who interviewed me could have ever imagined. So if I was telling myself that, hey, I'm willing to do anything, but I wasn't willing to put the effort forward, I would have gotten the result that a lot of people do get. And that is, hey, this just isn't for you. You should go do something else. But you know that about yourself. Are you willing to put in the extra work? Are you committed to the process and all the small things that it takes to get to where you want to go? And if so, then you will have success in where you're wanting to go. And if you're not willing to do those things, then just be honest with yourself and say, hey, this is doing everything possible isn't the priority to me. And then I'm not going to do that. So I think those are really two big things when we talk about resiliency, and also the people in our corner. Next is this idea, and as you've heard in many episodes, I talk about the idea of blissful dissatisfaction. And when I say blissful dissatisfaction, it's a very complex phrase, but it has a really simple meaning, and that is some people will constantly be pushing for their next goal. And because they're constantly pushing for the next goal, they never take time to enjoy the moment or the goal that's happening currently. And if you think about your life, you can probably reflect on those moments. And I think for a lot of people, until you reach a couple mountaintop moments and you realize, wow, the moment itself wasn't nearly the feeling that I thought I was going to get. I thought I would feel much better than this. And oftentimes people start living this unfulfilled life because they're constantly pushing for a next goal without ever taking time to enjoy the things they've been able to accomplish and the benefits that have come from what they've already been able to accomplish. There's other folks that they hit their first goal in life and they say, that's it. And they plateau and they stay there. And what I'll tell you is in social media today, people say, oh, that's terrible. Don't do that. If that's what makes you happy, maybe that's the level of life you want to live because you don't want to push your boundaries to what's next. You don't want to have to put in more work than what you've already done. And if that's the case, live a very satisfied life at that level. But for most of you that are listening, I know that you are deeply motivated. And because you're deeply motivated, that means that, hey, once I hit this level, I want to get to a next level. I want to keep growing. I want to keep aspiring for more. And as you're doing that, that's so important, but you have to make sure that you're enjoying all the things along the way, because folks that have the most success in life, and what I mean by success is not necessarily monetarily, but the people that have the most fulfillment and success is, we'll kind of use those interchangeably. Those are the people that have enjoyed the process and who they're becoming en route to getting to their goal. Because what we know is, I won't get to the next goal without leveling up and bettering myself. And so that is something to continuously think about is, who am I becoming in pursuit of my goal? If the goal is only monetarily and it's for your financial gain, I'm not saying that's wrong, but I will say oftentimes that leads to unfulfilled feelings later on in life, or maybe in pursuit of it. However, if you're thinking about who am I becoming in pursuit of this, how much more self-developed and self-aware and helpful can I be to others? I think you'll be willing to put in the extra effort, but you also get to where you're wanting to go and feel more fulfilled when you get there. So keep going. And then the last thing that I will say is there's a difference between doing something that we enjoy and really being passionate about it. Or maybe I would say it this way, being passionate and maybe slightly obsessive about something versus just doing something for fun. And, as I reflect on pro athletes that have come on, oftentimes they talk about, I wasn't the best player early on in my life, but I was always super passionate. I was driven. I was obsessed with becoming better. And that's where they got. I think it's so easy for us to see people in their mountaintop moments, right? The people that are, CEOs of large companies. I think of a Peter Taunton, hey, he's opened up over 2,000 gyms. Well, it's easy for us to see him from a distance and be like, well, I'm sure it's always been easy. But when we reflect back on it, he took over a first gym as just being a manager of a gym. And then he had to work his way through understanding and growing. And you have to be slightly obsessed with whatever it is that you're trying to be or working towards and being or accomplishing. And as we think about passionate, successful people, there is a slight obsession to learning more, growing, getting better at whatever the craft or the task is. And so as you're reflecting on where you're trying to go, would you define what you're doing as something you're passionate, almost slightly obsessed about? Or would you say it's just something that, you do for fun? And that's the difference between people that operate in the elite level versus people that are operating in just kind of the normal level. And once again, there's nothing wrong with being there. But if you want to get to an elite level, you really have to develop a passion and a slight obsession for what it is that you're doing. So these are just a few of the common themes of the different folks that have come on the show. If you're looking for a specific topic or a specific area, let me know. We'd love to send some over to you. But I want to say thank you for your continued support. It's amazing to think 200 episodes. We have new episodes every Tuesday and Friday, bringing you some people with some of the most fascinating stories. And what I'll also share with you is this year, I'll be releasing a couple that have my story in it to just help people get more familiar with Phil Friedrich. And also, we have a slate of great leaders that are going to share some amazing stories. So thank you guys so much for your support. The podcast is now in the top 1.5% of podcasts in the world. It's listened weekly in over 17 different countries. And so thank you for your continued support. Have an amazing 2023.